the handing out of money, and the dispensing of favors that bypassed and undermined the fragile processes of proper government. So I was 50% skeptical as I entered the Majlis, then 100% bowled over as I found myself treated to some direct royal contact of my own. In front of the king was standing an old Bedou, his bare toes scratching nervously at the rich silken carpet, as he declaimed sing-song lines of poetry, which he seemed to be making up as he went along. O love of the people, O Khaled, our king, O lion of the desert, your promises we sing. Listening to poetry is one of the occupational hazards of being king of Saudi Arabia. Elizabeth II shakes hands with a lot of district nurses. Saudi kings must nod appreciatively through the repetitive and often lengthy odes composed in their honor. In the meantime, there was a flurry of robed and shuffling hospitality, as thimblefuls of thin coffee got poured and trays of clear sweet tea were circulated. The Riyadh equivalent of Buckingham Palace flunkies were stern-looking, cross-belted retainers, wearing revolver holsters and swords. Suddenly, it was my turn to entertain the king, and I found myself ushered with my gift to the green brocade overstuffed sofa beside him. Louis Farouk is the decorative style favored in most Saudi palaces, a mixed allusion to the excesses of Versailles and the last gaudy king of Egypt. It was sticky to start with. How many times had this shy, long-suffering man had to accept the homage of stumbling foreigners? But as he turned the pages of the album, King Khaled started to get it. He recognized uncles and cousins, and places from long ago, and above all the pictures of his extraordinary charismatic father, Abdul Aziz, slave of the mighty one being God, whom Abdul Aziz served devotedly through the creed that outsiders call Wahhabism, Central Arabia's harsh and fiercely puritanical interpretation of the Islamic faith. Many Saudis reject being described as Wahhabis, since they see themselves as followers of true Islam, not members of a particular sect. Usually known in the West as Ibn Saud, or son of Saud, this warrior king had subdued and pulled together the tribes of Arabia between 1901 and 1925, then proudly, some said arrogantly, slapped his family name on the whole bundled-up conglomerate. Al-Mamlaka, Al-Arabiya, Al-Saudiya, the Saudi Arab Kingdom, Arabia, as belonging to the House of Saud. The great man's son, Khaled, was now turning the pages of my album with real interest, calling over cronies to look at such and such a face, or to question whether such and such a caption was correct about the date or place, until he came to a photo dated 1918. It showed Abdul Aziz standing smiling and self-assured in a headdress and winter cloak, almost a head taller than a line of rather less confident relatives and companions, while a group of ragged little children in the front row squinted quizzically at the first European that most of them had ever seen. It was the children that attracted King Khaled's attention. "One of those is me," he exclaimed excitedly, recounting through a translator how he could remember this Khawaja, Western gentleman, coming to meet his father, then taking them all outside to line up in the courtyard. The stranger had vanished under his blanket to peer at them through his curious machine, and the children had been told very strictly not to move. But little Khaled had not then understood why, nor had ever been shown the result. 6 decades later, here it was. Wallah, by God, the most common and benevolent oath in Saudi Arabia. The king happily slapped the album shut and ordered a servant to take it back to show the family that night. Meanwhile, I was dismissed with a fatherly beam and was walked back to my place to sit through another hour of wafting incense and poetry, reflecting on the nature of this curious land. I had found my paradox, if not two. Blessed by geology with infinite riches, Saudi Arabia was